And we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcasts. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraw. How are you doing, Seth?
I'm a little jet lagged.
Yeah, we're going to talk about why that is the case in just a second. But first of all, I want to do a quick thank you to today's episode sponsor, Climate Exchange, a nonpartisan nonprofit working to help states pass effective, equitable climate policies. The nonprofit just kicked off its 10th annual EV raffle, where participants have multiple opportunities to win their dream EV model. Visit carbonraffle.org/electrek, carbonraffle.org/electrek to learn more. We also have a link in the show notes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them mid-show. But yeah, Seth is a little jet lag because he just came back from San Diego, where he checked out the Silverado EV Trail Boss. So first, I know your article is not out yet and everything, but can you give us a little bit of first impressions?
Yeah, I got back on the red eye last night, so I haven't really had much time to write. But it's a Silverado. Like, it's got that really big, 205 kilowatt hour battery, absurd range in the 450s. We had actually got a chance to tow a Polaris, which is also a big vehicle, around town, and you almost forget that it's towing. It's just so good at adjusting for the extra weight. So I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's better than like the GMC Sierra or like the Hummer in terms of like luxury. Like that's just not how Chevy rolls. But it does have some nice additions to it. It's kind of a spec'd out version. I don't have the price in front of me, but it's a little bit higher than the other ones. We did take it off-roading. I hate to get down on Chevy, but their off-roading adventures aren't quite as exotic as like Rivian. So, we went on these trails.
They're not as used to making them too. Like there's not a lot of Chevy off-roading vehicles.
Yeah, so we went up. We were in San Diego. We went up to the mountains. We went on these dirt trails, but we went pretty slow. We saw some big, we were on some big potholes, and wheels got off the ground and the bottom rubbed. But it wasn't. We didn't have any speed. There wasn't any like harrowing moments. But it handled it great. And then got back on the road. We also charged at Tesla superchargers, which was a first for a non-Tesla or any event really. So that was interesting. The Trail Boss does not have native NACS, but we used an adapter.
Oh, okay. So the peak rate was limited by the adapter, I assume.
Yeah, and by the time, it's one of those things where they don't really understand that, like when you show up at a supercharger with like 86% charge, you're not really going to test it that well. Although we did get like over 100 kilowatts. So it was respectable for sure.
No, I mean, just getting over 100 kilowatts at over 80% state of charge, you don't see that in a Tesla, first of all.
No.
That's already pretty good.
And then that's the factor of that 205 kilowatt hour battery. I mean, that's the thing. Like Silverado's like a great thing. That the mid-gate thing is awesome if you're carrying big kayaks and stuff. But the real game changer is that 205 kilowatt hour battery. That just nobody else has that, and that's going to be a game changer for some people.
Yeah, if you need the capacity, you have it, which is not the case in virtually all of their vehicles,
especially for towing, right?
Yeah, towing and kind of hard work. All right, we're gonna talk. We're gonna start a little bit with some Tesla stuff. That we're gonna preview the delivery result that's gonna come out next week. Then we're gonna talk a little bit policies that's Tesla's complaining about. V14 FSD V14 is apparently coming as soon as next week. And then Lucid Gravity, we have some good news on that front. Some financing news, and then as usual, as we often do, in a hand on some China news. A lot of Chinese EVs coming. And at the end, we're going to have some time to talk to you guys. So if you guys have any questions for us, you can put them in the comment section right now. We're going to get to it at the end of the show. All right, let's start with this week. I posted with the headline: Tesla is having its first and probably last good quarter in a while. And when I say first good quarter in a while, first relative to the recent performance, because it's still not a stellar quarter or anything like that. Probably going to be like around probably going to be a record Q3, I would assume, but nothing blowing out of the water. So a lot of analysts this week have updated their expectation, and now the range is between 430, 480, but that was earlier this week, and now I'm seeing even some people going 490,000 vehicles delivered in Q3. And most of the analysts that are consistently, on the accurate side are on the higher range. So by the time everything is said is done, early next week when the quarter ends, I would assume that we're going to see Tesla, the consensus from Tesla analysts being around 480 to 490,000 vehicle delivered. And if you compare it to the same period last year, Q3 2024, Tesla was at 463,000 deliveries. So it would be up year over year, which, as you can see from this charts here with the green tower being 2025, it would break the trend, a pretty clear trend going down quarter over quarter for the last 3 years. Tesla has been going up in the second half of the year, but this time it's not a seasonal situation. It's obviously because the US market is seeing a ton of demand being pulled forward into Q3 because of the end of tax credit. We've been talking about that nonstop for the last 3 months. Because if you look at the current situation in the different markets, the US is obviously the most opaque one, everything, but why people are so optimistic about the quarter in the US, obviously because of the situation itself. But if you look at the data, trying to get some harder data on this, the inventory situation for Tesla right now in the US is extremely low, especially for Model 3, Model Y. Model S and X, there's still plenty of availability. Cybertruck, you won't have too much difficulty finding ones. But 3 and Y are where the volume at, and the inventory is very low. So that's good for Tesla, obviously, especially considering Tesla added, that's globally, not US only, but over 50,000 units to inventory in the first half of the year. So that was Tesla's problem. And now they're able to work through that a lot, again, in the US. In Europe, it's not going well. Q3 is down based on the daily registration countries. So that's like Norway, UK, a few other countries. Tesla is down 5,000 units in the quarter year over year. So it's still down quite a bit. And we have some European numbers coming from August. We don't have the full September just yet, but like Norway, we have September and a few others. And then in China, the biggest market for Tesla is still down 24,000 units year over year so far this year. And Q3 is also in decline by, I think it was 6,000 units the last time I checked. So Tesla is basically down everywhere except the US and a few smaller markets like South Korea, Turkey, even though Turkey was also for an incentive reason that is going away. So yeah, it's going to be a good quarter for Tesla. But the problem is, like, it's going to be probably the last, because all other markets, again, I said the few ones that I mentioned, are going badly, and like there's nothing changing on that front. It's the trend that's continuing. While the US, it's the clear reason is the end of tax credit, which is going to start hurting in Q4. Now, the thing that we discussed in the last few months that have been good for Tesla is the IRS has given the electric automakers a little bit of slack, where if you have a binding order, so with a non-refundable deposit by September 30th, you can take delivery after September 30th. The weird part that we discussed when the rule change was made is that there's no actual date for the delivery. There's no actual deadline. So, like, for example, Rivian could take R2 deposit, non-refundable deposit, with binding contracts, and technically the customer will still get the tax credit even if they deliver next year. But that would be stretching it like crazy, and I wouldn't recommend that, obviously. But Tesla and Lucid, a few other automakers have utilized that IRS rule change. That said, there's no new order starting September, so I think that will still have a big impact on Q4, just a little bit less or so than previously stated. Now it will also result in some 2026 demand being pulled forward because of that. So some people that are locked in on this but are not ready to take delivery will still place the order. So that's something to consider. But then you look at Europe, decline still going. You look at China. China, it looks like a slow squeeze for Tesla. Like the deliveries are going down slowly, and I think that will continue because just the ramp up in competition is absolutely insane in China. Also, we've confirmed basically this week that the crazy report about the Model Y L that Tesla launched a few weeks ago and was supposedly had over 100,000 reservation for it and everything. The deliveries are starting for the last 3 weeks, and they actually gone down in the last week, which would point. And Tesla is taking new orders for delivery in November. So obviously, those reports were completely false as we expected. We have the Association of Automakers in Europe that released the August numbers. So we have the official August numbers, and we have even Elon Musk that commented on them. We've talked about how Elon straight up lied about the European situation a few months ago, where he said that they're not seeing any material change. He said that everything is going bad in Europe, so it's not just Tesla. We see that the continued decline is happening in August. However, a little less so. So instead of being down the usual 30 to 40%, if you take Europe, the EU, EFTA, and the UK together, Tesla was down 22.5% in August. So now it's down 32.6% year over year. So still pretty bad, but not as bad as what we saw here this year. Where Elon decided to comment on this, and I really don't know why he decided to go there, because there's no way to make Tesla look good, even though he tries his best here. Reuters came out with an article saying that BYD outsold Tesla in the EU, which is the important word here, for a second month. We reported on that last month. Stellantis returned to sales growth and everything. Elon said Reuters misled constantly, agreeing with another Tesla influencer here on X, AJ, who tried to defend Tesla, saying that Reuters is mistaken, saying that BYD outsold Tesla in the EU last month. Tesla was outsold by BYD in the EU, but in the European Union. So if Reuters would have said Europe, they would have been wrong. But they said EU, and indeed, put the numbers somewhere here. Indeed, BYD sold 9,130 units last month in the EU compared to Tesla 8,220 units, so almost 1,000 units difference. It's when you add EFTA, which is Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland, and the UK, that Tesla now outsells BYD 14,831 to 11,455. But the thing is, even if you take this, EFTA plus UK numbers, which is the one that I use, by the way, with my 22% in A1, because I think it's just, it's a bigger number, it's more useful. Tesla was down 22%, while BYD was up 215%. And now, year over year, BYD in those markets is up 280% versus Tesla being down 32%. So I don't know why Elon would even want to go there. BYD is obviously eating Tesla's lunch in Europe right now, and there's no stop in sight. I would, even at this pace, it wouldn't be surprising if BYD outsells Tesla for the whole year in the EU, EFTA, and the UK. So, bad situation. And my main point about this situation in Europe has always been, I don't know why Elon is trying to. Well, I mean, I know why he's trying to cite this issue as like not being important and people being misleading about it, because obviously he doesn't want to address it, but it should be addressed because it is important. Because when you have the world's largest electric automaker being down year over year, when BEVs are surging right now in Europe, they're up 30% year over year, which is huge. So you have a surging market. You would think that the market leader, which was Tesla until last year, would also see a positive impact from that, but we are not seeing that. So that's super worrying. But it's being completely ignored. Which, we're being called Tesla haters a lot at Electrek, but I'm not trying to hate on Tesla here. This is an issue. It's important data that the company should take into account and apply to their strategy to, sales are going down. If our views are going down at Electrek, we're like, all right, what's happening? Like, should we, are we doing something wrong? Like, what is affecting that? And you're trying to address it. But if you're like, no, nothing is happening, like then nothing's going to happen and it's not going to get better. So it's like, we're not trying to hate on Tesla. We're trying to see this is a real problem and it should be addressed. And obviously, if you do a root cause analysis of the issue, Tesla has an aging lineup. Competition is being a lot more attractive to the market right now. Elon Musk has greatly affected the brand, but I think even more than that, I think Elon has shifted Tesla towards autonomous driving and robotic, leaving a lot less resources and effort towards the EV lineup, which is resulting in this aging lineup that people are just not as attracted to. I think that makes sense. We still have 9bag coins saying FUD live. How is that fear that we're trying to spread? Well, I mean, kind of is. Like, Tesla should fear this situation.
Uncertainty. What is it? Fear, uncertainty.
It's basically just something when you don't have a counter argument for something, you say
right,
FUD. Like, I banned the word on my Twitter. Like, I don't see any posts that have FUD because it's such a lazy, like intellectually lazy word to use. I'm ashamed that I ever used it in the past. In the US, we have Tesla that pronounced itself for the first time on the new APA rules that the Trump administration is rolling back. So the new APA policy now will allow automakers to produce more vehicles that are polluting. And Tesla raised its hand and said, no, we're against that. You shouldn't do that. So I think it's pretty interesting within the contrast that Trump has ran on that. Clearly, it was electric vehicle start shutting down the EV mandate. Well, even though there wasn't really a real EV mandate, but anything that was pro-electric vehicle shutting down, it was clear throughout his campaign. You have to give him that. It was one of the things, politicians often say things during the campaign like, I'm going to end wars and all that, and then they don't do it when they get in power. That's one of the campaign promises that Trump has delivered on. And so it's not too surprising to see Tesla now being against it. What's more surprising is that Tesla's CEO was behind him when he was making these comments, and he still gave him like $200 million to make it happen. So that's a little bit more concerning. But I think I see it like we saw Elon. Elon is actually on the record being pro removing the EV tax credit. However, he has not said anything about the EPA rules. So that's interesting. This is one of the things that where Tesla they are still very. It shows that Tesla is very much under the control of Elon, and they are aligned politically or policies-wise, I should say, on that front, where Tesla has not made so much of a complaint about the tax credit going away, probably because mid to long term, it doesn't affect Tesla negatively too much, because Tesla is still somewhat profitable. It's going to break even maybe without the tax credit in the US, while other automakers are going to struggle a lot, or even give up on their EV plans for the legacy automakers that have an ICE business to fall into. But so long term, Tesla will probably knock off some of the competition with that in the US. Again, it's a problem because it's just in the US and not happening elsewhere. But the EPA rule is different because the EPA rule has forced the other automakers to go electric and to also pay penalties, to pay fines if they don't do it, and they can counter that by going with Tesla, buying some credit from Tesla directly, which has a surplus of it because of only producing zero-emission vehicles, and that has been a direct outflow of money from competition into Tesla. So that has been very positive for Tesla over the years, and removing that is going to hurt Tesla a lot. And Elon has been quiet about that, even though it was clearly Trump's plan when he backed him. And now it's happening right now. And also said, I've seen while doing my research on this that the the Trump administration, which is federal, obviously, has been somewhat successful now at squashing the CARB mandates, especially the one for the semi trucks. The CARB officially today removed their mandate for semi trucks because it was officially non-enforceable federally.
Yeah, it's a big mess.
Yeah, so in the last few weeks and in the coming weeks, right now, we're going to see all of those anti-EV initiative from the federal government taking place. Tax credit goes away next week. EPA mandates removed, affecting the CARB, the California goal to do their own thing, basically. Even California has given up on its plan to compensate for the removal of the EV tax credit federally. They're saying,
I don't know if you saw that. Gavin Newsom called out Mary Barra for that one.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, everything is in place, like it's working now. It's pretty sad because I just saw the numbers, like the estimates now for Q3. And Q3 we've been saying was going to be a great quarter for EVs in the US because of the demand being pulled forward. But even then, even with like the crazy good demand, which is going to be temporary and then go down, barely broke 10% BEVs market share in, or at least it's looking like that. Obviously, September, the data is not completely clear yet, and it's going to be the biggest month. But it looks like it's going to go from 8 to 10%, which is a big jump for a big market like the US. But, Europe is already at over 15%. Norway is at 100%. China is at like 30% BEVs, over 50% now if you take PHEVs into account. It's like
we're basically the third world.
In the future of ground transportation, which is BEVs, it is third world. It makes no sense. I'm sure you have some third world countries that have like super low passenger vehicle sales that BYD has got into.
BYD is like heading into Costa Rica, and and they're
so within a few years it's going to be over 10% and surpass the US. Like it makes no sense. The US is going to be left behind so much. People don't understand the impact of that, but it's like all the American automakers are going to be so far behind because they don't have a domestic market to push them to make electric vehicles, and then they're not going to compete on the world stage. We're seeing it in Europe, where the Chinese automakers are growing like crazy with 25% tariffs. Well, 15 to 25, but some of them have some exemption, but still, it's massive.
Yeah.
Right. But there's something that's going to save Tesla, and that's autonomy. Elon has bet the house on it. But the last year, if you're FSD owner like myself, whether it was a hardware 3 or hardware 4, it hasn't been really exciting because Tesla hasn't had a major FSD update since late last year. FSD v14 if you're on hardware 4, v12 if you're on hardware 3. And that has been blamed on Tesla focusing on its little robotaxi project in Austin. All the effort from the FSD team has been on that instead of the consumer product. And but the way that Elon has been calming everyone down, we've paid up to $15,000 for that product, and you're not delivering what you promised, is that we're going to have a big update coming with everything we learned from robotaxi being rolled into FSD v14 update. And he said it was coming late September, and it sounds like it will be. He said this week version 14.0 goes into early wide release next week, then 14.1 about 2 weeks later, and finally 14.2. The car will feel almost like it's sentient being by 14.2. I'm just probably starting by 14.2, I think he meant.
I'm going to go on the record saying that it will not feel like a sentient being. at 14.2.
Well, that's a wild bet set. No, sentient is the new mind blowing. That's what's happening there. He called it. That's twice now that he called the next update sentient. He referred to v13 as being feeling alive. So Elon said back like with v11 and v12, it was mind blowing. He kept saying with every new point update, not just the bigger updates, that it was mind blowing. Now people started laughing at him about that, and now he switched to sentient. That's the new that's the new big hyperbole that he's using now. Look, I'm gonna make a prediction, and it's speculation, okay, but I feel like I'm entitled to speculating because this CEO keeps speculating about when unsupervised autonomy is going to come, and he keeps getting it wrong. So I'm going to make a speculation that makes a lot more sense. And that's, can see easily v13 coming with a 2 to 3x improvement in miles between critical disengagement, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Big improvement. But based on the data we have right now, Tesla is roughly at 400. It peaked at 500 earlier in the year, but then it kept going down. We kept seeing regression with the latest data. Well, now we have over 100,000 miles, close to 100,000 miles on v13, and it has regressed to roughly around 400 miles between critical disengagement. You double that, 800. You triple it, 1,200. So I can see between 800 and 1,200 miles between disengagement after v14 would be a huge improvement. However, you cannot deliver unsupervised autonomous driving with that. It doesn't make sense. You need, for a limited service a la robotaxi, like removing the supervisor and the robotaxi, you need to be closer to 10,000 just to, with a lot of limitations, geofence and all that, because to limit the possible no highways and things like that, to limit the potential incident level, crashes and whatnot. For consumer, like level 5, you can say level 4, you remove some of the weather increment and all that, but let's say level 4 at a consumer level where you can drive everywhere. Nowhere near that. You need to be in the hundreds of thousands. You need to be at 700,000 if you want to be safer than a human driver. That's the average number of mileage between crashes. So you're still so far from it.
So importantly, hardware 3 people, are they going to get version 14, the same version?
No. We're still at 12, and they're already at 13. No, I think at this point it's and we're gonna see it with v14. But I think v14 is gonna basically confirm that hardware 4 is going the same way as hardware 3, because we're already seeing the limitation of hardware 4 with the latest update. Tesla is using the both chips, the one that's supposed to be the redundant. Yeah. So you won't have any redundancy on the autonomous driving computer. So you cannot achieve level 4 with that. You need redundancy at level 4.
So would you advise people to wait for hardware 5 or 4.5 or whatever's next?
Yeah, I think I think there's a real shot at Tesla achieving autonomy with an hardware update. I don't see it happening on the current hardware whatsoever. And then people talk about retrofit, but how much hope you have to have a retrofit on this? I don't, especially for hardware 3. I don't see it at all. It's been 9 months now since Elon Musk has admitted that hardware 3 won't support the promise on supervised autonomous driving, and we heard nothing. Obviously, and you want to know why we haven't heard nothing? Because they don't know. They don't know when it's going to be solved. They don't know what hardware it's going to be solved. So what's the point of doing a retrofit if you don't know? And that sounds fair, and it would be fair only if he wasn't at the same time promising unsupervised self-driving by the end of the year. Like, you cannot. He obviously doesn't know. That's why he doesn't do the retrofit, or doesn't announce some kind of making it right for hardware 3 customers. But at the same time, he tells you, no, I know it's going to be on. You don't know nothing, and you didn't know nothing when you said the same thing last year. Didn't know nothing after that. That's where like things get, I get a little bit more frustrated, because at one point, like, just being too ambitious or not knowing, or missing deadline becomes lying. Is like, this is when you obviously you don't really know. You're just making wild guess, and you cannot sell a product on wild guess. You cannot make prediction on wild guess, but you can get $1 trillion compensation package based on wild guesses, though.
Hey, has Green talked about what do we know about hardware 5? Has Green talked about it? Do we know chips, NVIDIA, Jensen Huang?
Yeah, we know the chips. Now I'm getting, because we're already talking about hardware 6 right now, so I don't want to on the top of my head. I think TMS, the Taiwanese one, which one?
TSMC.
TSMC is doing the hardware 5, I think, on the 4 nanometer, I think, one. And then you have Samsung making the hardware 6 that they're already working on, which is the next generation product after that.
And they're building that in Texas, right?
Yeah, I think so. So they secured the capacity in Texas from Samsung really early. But hardware 5, I think now was supposed to come this year, and now it's coming next year.
Maybe they skip over hardware 5.
Maybe, but yeah. I mean, I think he said like hardware 5, like 10 times the capacity. Hardware 4, like at 10 times the capacity. Hardware 4, I can start seeing like a possibility, because you 10x,
right?
I know, like, I'm making a number, like I know it's not completely, it's not the same. Like, you don't 10x the compute power of the computer, and then you 10x the miles between disengagement. I know it doesn't work like that, but like, just as a rough estimate, if you do that, then you're starting to get, if hardware 4 peaks toward 1,000 miles between critical disengagement, then you start to get into an area where it makes sense a little bit, at least. It's still like pushing it, and I personally, if I was in charge of a company doing that, I would not be comfortable selling a product based on that, but it start to make a little bit more sense.
All right, let's do our read quick before we go on to the next. Climate Exchange. Today's episode is brought to you by Climate Exchange, a nonpartisan nonprofit working to help states pass effective, equitable climate policies, which are critical in accelerating the transition to a zero-emissions economy. The nonprofit just kicked off its 10th annual EV raffle, where participants have multiple opportunities to win their dream model. This go-around, Climate Exchange is shaking things up with not one, but 2 raffles. First is the luxury raffle, with Climate Exchange has conducted for the last decade. The grand prize winner can choose any EV on the market, fully customized, up to $120,000. New this year, the grand prize winner can also choose 2 EVs totaling up to $120K. Also new for this year annual event is the mini raffle, in which the grand prize winner can choose any EV on the market priced up to $45,000. Luxury raffle tickets are $250 each, and only 5,000 tickets will be sold, while the mini raffle tickets are $100 each, and Climate Exchange is only selling 3,500 tickets. Thus, your chances of winning your dream EV are higher than other raffles. Better yet, if you purchase a ticket to the luxury raffle by October 30th, you'll be automatically entered into their bonus early bird drawing of $10,000 on October 31st. The grand prize drawing will take place on December 12th, but we recommend getting those early bird raffle tickets now to give yourself the most chances to win. Visit carbonraffle.org/Electrek to learn more. Big thank you to Climate Exchange for sponsoring. Yeah, check that out.
Yeah. Like, it's like a little social experiment at the same time. If you win, you can either buy you get $120,000 EV or 2 $60,000 EV. So it's like, do you want to get a free $60,000 EV and one for your mom too, or do you want to get the $120,000 EV for yourself? It's a cool psychological experiment at the same time.
I guess it depends on the winner if they have other prerogatives.
Yeah. Well, I like it. It's cool.
Yep.
All right. One last Tesla news before we move forward. That happened last weekend, just after the podcast. It's a pretty funny story. Went kind of viral, especially on our Instagram. We had like, I think, 10 million views on this. You remember, Seth, in 2000, well, it was in 2016, he made the
Coast to Coast
claim, Coast to Coast self-driving claim. So in 2016, Elon said that by the end of 2017, Tesla would be able to do a coast to coast autonomous, 100% autonomous drive. He specifically mentioned from LA to New York, but he said that this is not like theoretical. Tesla will do it in 2017. They will, either live stream it or film it and post it fully unedited and all that, and you could watch a Tesla drive itself coast to coast. Now we're in 2025, and he has never done that. Tesla has never done it. He actually did comment on it a few years ago because people. It's one of his promises that people have used to like poke at him for missing autonomous driving deadlines. And he said, "Oh, we could do it, but we're not going to do it because it would be fake. It would be like if you do a predetermined route, you could easily do it. So it's too easy. We won't do it." Which tells you a lot about his character. But with the latest FSD update, you hear a lot of these Tesla shareholders / influencers. They really believe that Tesla can do it with the current update. They keep telling you like, I haven't driven my car in 6 months. The car drives me itself all the time. It's already there. Autonomous driving is already there and all that. And it's like, every time we try to like shake them out of this, cult mentality, it's like, yeah, maybe it is driving you to work and back and everything, but it needs to do it consistently for millions of miles to make sense, or at least hundreds of thousands of miles. And two of these, I call them Tesla shareholder influencers, Bearded Tesla and John West or Josh West, I'm not sure his name. Anyway, they set out to replicate the coast to coast drive. They're like, we'll do it. We can do it ourselves. And they started in San Diego, and their goal was to go to Jacksonville, Florida. They didn't get out of San Diego County without crashing the car. And we see dime bags here. You call that a crash? Like, he broke his battery pack and his suspension. Are you telling me it's not a crash? And I had the same exact thing happen to me too in a Model 3 years back in 2020. I rented a Model 3 on Turo, and I was driving to Las Vegas, and I ran over an exploded semi-truck tire. And unlike them, I was in traffic. I couldn't go left because there was traffic. I couldn't go right because I was going into a ditch. I didn't have as much time to react because literally a big truck just ran over it. So I couldn't see it until the last second. I pressed the brake to slow the impact, but I still ran over it. And the same thing happened. You see them right now if you're watching on the screen.
Yeah, it's hilarious. You should try to play the audio because they're like, is that roadkill?
Yeah,
like no.
Actually, the audio won't work if I do it on the YouTube.
Okay.
But they see it, especially the passenger see it way ahead of time, and he points at it, and then they let it go because a lot of these Tesla influencers, when you post a Tesla crash, they're like. Not a Tesla crash, but a near miss, let's say, where it looks like it's about to crash, and then the driver take over and avoids the crash. A lot of times you'll see all these Tesla shareholders in the comments saying that you should have let it go. It would have reacted in time and everything. And it literally looks like this one because the driver doesn't seem worried at all, doesn't put his hands on the steering wheel until the very last second when you realize that the system is not going to do anything, and maybe he thought he was going to be able to drive over it. I don't know. It's not clear, but it couldn't. It was a piece of metal, and it was just enough that it scraped the bottom and made the car jump a little bit. You see them having a big reaction right now on the loop GIF.
Yeah, they're lucky. Honestly, they're lucky it wasn't much worse. It could have been.
Yeah, but I can
speed.
tell you, it's very bad on the vehicle though. When I did it, and it was not metal too, it was just giant rubber, but it was exactly the same impact. Like you just jumped a little bit. The bumper wasn't bad or anything. It just the the part that's underneath the car between the bumper and the battery that got broken pretty bad. I had to tape it up and everything, but I still managed to get it to Vegas, get back to LA, give the car back to the Turo owner. But then when he brought it to Tesla and he sent me the bill, or they sent my insurer the bill, it was $10,000 in damage, mainly to the suspension itself. They also broke their suspension with that, but they said also they had to replace the battery pack because they kept getting warning messages from the car. Tesla gave them a new battery pack. And I have to assume because this got too much attention and they didn't want to post like a $20,000 repair bill for that little thing that's not a crash, as some of these Tesla fans are saying in the comments. When you have like $20,000 of damage, it's obviously a crash. They crashed into an object on the road.
This is a pretty good example of when radar or LiDAR would have been helpful. Like,
absolutely,
this kind of looks like a pothole to the naked eye. I mean, clearly the influencers knew. So they were like, what is that?
Yeah, even if it's roadkill, like you want to move aside. Like you don't know.
You're going to get carnage all over your car.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how tall it is. Like I don't want to, if you hit it on the bumper, like it's going to be disgusting. But yeah, they got 2.5% of the coast to coast trip before, wrecking the vehicle. So congrats.
There you go. 60 miles.
Yeah, good. 58 miles, I think exactly they got. All right, we got some good news on Lucid Gravity. So there's been a lot of confusion about the launch of the Gravity. Deliveries started in April. They were pretty slow at first. And, last month, there was a big report that came out claiming that Lucid had delivered only 9 Gravity in the first 6 months of production of deliveries. And obviously, Lucid, clap back at that. They're like, this doesn't make sense. We already delivered hundreds and whatnot. But even hundreds of Gravity deliveries in the first few months is not exactly great, let's be honest, even though it is an expensive, like $80,000 plus vehicle. But it's not great. Now we have our first clear evidence that Lucid is ramping up Gravity production. We have a new drone flyover that I think happened on Tuesday or Monday at the factory in Arizona, and Casa, what's it called? The factory for
Hello,
Casa Grande.
welcome
Casa
to my
Grande,
channel,
that's right.
and welcome to Lucid's Advanced Manufacturing. I think
in the video of the drone video, you see
Monday, September 22nd,
I tried to count them. It's hard to count them exactly, and I don't want to confuse. Also, here's some air that also coming out of the factory, but most of them now looks Gravity by far.
Here.
And I've counted, easily 800, maybe closer to 1,000.
I can hear the audio on this thing.
Oh yeah,
usually on August 16th, which is Saturday.
Oh, okay, now it's gone. So yeah, it's I know we don't know exactly how long it took to produce those, but they are getting ready to be shipped. They are on trucks. There's a bunch of trucks that kept coming. There was about six trucks in the video that was coming to pick up Gravities. So it looks like they have finally figured out production, and they're coming out of the factory in higher volume now. Let's see, because the video is quite long. I put some screenshot that you see a lot more of them, but there's a bunch of different parking lots around the factories, and I counted, between 800 and around 1,000, I would say. So that's good news, because we've been saying for a while, but Lucid, even though they proved some incredible technology with the Air, it's a sedan. Sedan don't sell well in North America. You need an SUV. And the Gravity has been extremely well received by reviewers. Ourselves loved it. Scooter did a review, loved it. I checked it out in California last month, loved it. I think it's going to be a success. They just need to ramp up production as soon as possible, and it looks like it's finally happening. I think my computer is starting to lag right now because I'm trying to back and it's not working.
Sometimes an ad will refresh the page, so you might have to go back like a few.
Yeah. I think it's the streaming also software that's slow things down. Got it. All right, moving on from Lucid, we have some news from TELO. Remember TELO set, the tiny electric truck that's no bigger than a Mini? They got a new financing round this week, and we have even Mark Tarpening. Now, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. that got involved in the round. They raised $20 million, which is not a lot for a vehicle program, let's be honest. But they already did a lot without a lot of money, because they had only raised $8 million to date. And with the $8 million, they produced a couple of working prototypes and set up plan for production. And now they think that with $20 million that they raised this time, which they raised from Yves Behar, which is a renowned industrial designer and also one of the co-founder of TELO, Mark Taperning and his new venture firm, Spero Ventures, TOVC was involved, E12 Venture, Neo, Mark Benioff,
Salesforce,
yeah, okay, that's what I knew from, and a few other funds got involved, raised 20 millions, and now with that, they think they can get to production, which would be extremely impressive. But for those who don't remember, TELO, it's this small little truck here that's no bigger than a Mini, but still very utilitarian, seating 5 adults in that, a 5-foot bed with 8 feet extension with the folding mid partition. They say that you can fit a plywood in the back, plywood sheet. All-wheel drive, up to 350 miles of range, and obviously exceptional navigability in towns and cities, because again, it is smaller than the Mini. So very, very impressive stuff. Like it's not pretty maybe for truck drivers, but it's something it's a form factor that's popular in Asia, popular in other parts of the world, and North America hasn't really embraced that. But there's not really any reason to, other than policies that help bigger vehicles a lot. That's created a trend towards bigger vehicles. I think there's a way there. I think there's room for this in the market, and they proved it with like 12,000 reservation for this. So that's probably helped them raise the $20 million. And they are making it clear that capital efficiency is head of the game here. They want to keep very close to their costs and trying to design everything for manufacturability and bring this thing to production with $20 million. I have my doubts. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to do it, but it's not impossible. I think it's it's a possibility that they can bring this thing to production with $20 million. I would, if they can, I would be like extremely impressed, obviously. But yeah, I think it's a cool project. I'm glad it's happening. If they add like $50 million from this round, I think okay, that's a little bit more feasible. But if they can do it with 20, would be nuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't put all my money on that one.
No, obviously, normal for people who don't know, like normally, like a very extremely cheap vehicle program would be like $200 million, and that would be extremely cheap. Yeah, so 20, it's a tenth of that. But who knows? With AI, with new technologies, could happen. All right, Xiaomi is dipping its toes in Europe, not with cells just yet, but with I should say Xiaomi vehicles, because obviously their personal electronics is in Europe yet. They set up shop in the EU with an R&D and Design Center in Germany. So it's the first time that they are establishing a presence there for their electric vehicle system. It's going to be to get access to the German talent, obviously. And so far, it's been very much a Chinese company. But Xiaomi, loves Germany a lot. You've seen all they've done with the Nürburgring. The CEO loves Nürburgring, and they keep testing the vehicle there. So it makes sense for them to set up shop there and try to keep their hands or their mini records that they have set in the country yet. And it's to preface the upcoming expansion of the EV business in the EU, which is supposed to happen in 2027. They're not in a hurry to do that right now, obviously, because they still have a ton of demand in China that they cannot fulfill just yet. All right, we have one more news item that I want to discuss before we get into the comments, but I see you guys already talking to each other a lot. So if you guys have a question for us, I would appreciate if you put question, then if you write actually the word question and then put your question so that we can get to them a little bit easier, because I think it's going to be hard for Seth to navigate through all of your talks and whatnot. between each other, which you're allowed to do. Is just for us, it makes it a little bit more difficult. In China, Mercedes just launched the CLA L EV, a new version of their popular CLA that they launched last year, I think, in Europe. And it starts at 259,000 yen, which is the equivalent $36,000, with a range of 530 miles, 866 kilometers. That's on the CLTC standard, though, but still. Yeah, I think what I find interesting about this. So, do they say which partner is making this with them in China in the article?
Don't they have like a specific partner that they? I feel like.
Yeah, I cannot remember which one it is. It's always different. But what I found interesting with this one is like if you compare this with the CLA that they produced themselves in Europe, it's like this is going half the price. And it's just as good of specs that they do. So I think it's good to highlight the discrepancy between even the same brand name that they sell in Europe and elsewhere versus the one they do in China, but this one they make with a Chinese partner. It's wild, the difference. So. Because everything else looks very close to the CLA that you have in other market. You still have, the giant hyperscreen system. You still have same design. Still have crazy range on it. The CLA, we praised it earlier this year for being like super efficient for Mercedes. It's one of the first vehicles that gets a lot of benefits from the development of the Vision X, I think that they called their test vehicle. That's for hyper efficiency. I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's try to get to some of these comments if we can.
All right, Specularia was one of the first on there. When does the lack of CAFE regulatory credits start hitting Tesla financial statements? I mean, that's going to hit soon, right?
Yeah, I think there's going to be partly of it. So the problem with that is that it depends on how automakers take the situation, because a lot of these deals are directly with automakers and they are over a long period of time. So maybe, like, for example, let's say Ford has already agreed to buy Tesla's credit over the next 3 years. Now, the thing is, like, it depends. We haven't seen these contracts. So sometimes these contracts will say, if there's a change in the law, we are allowed to break this contract. I would assume that most automakers, especially knowing, elections are coming in 2024 and everything, would have put that in them. If they didn't, I think probably some lawyers should get fired or something. But so yeah, I would assume that the impact is going to start to be felt a little bit in Q3, but mostly in Q4 onward, I think.
All right.
And we don't. That's going to be interesting because we don't know how big the impact is, because Tesla doesn't break down regulatory credits per market. They just do the global ones. And we know Tesla gets some in Europe, but sales have been going down in Europe, so that means fewer credits there too. There's some in China also, but US is believed to be around half, if not more, of Tesla's regulatory credits. So if that is slashed, in half, it would be a big deal, obviously, because it's hundreds of millions of dollars every quarter, pure profit.
All right. William Pisano says what no one is talking about is how Elon collects welfare from taxpayers. And I'm not just talking about Tesla, SpaceX, oil welfare. Yes, Elon and his brother were involved with oil. I'm not sure what that is specifically.
Yeah.
Tesla and SpaceX collect welfare from the federal government, from Texas governor, in the form of welfare for the power bills. This money goes to oil companies, and what's left over goes to Elon. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know if we want to focus on that. I'm not sure that's like there's plenty of things you can criticize Elon on. I think, like, if they take advantage of subsidies to power the facilities in Texas, I think, it's just, if it's there, they take it. It's like every company is doing that. I think if you want to criticize Elon, I don't know if you saw that said it just broke the Twitter before we went live, but the Special Senate committee just released more of the Epstein emails and agenda, and Elon is in them. And in 2014, he was, according to those documents, planning to visit Epstein Island,
Oh,
according to the documents. It says in his agenda, Elon supposed to come this date, 2014, and then in parentheses, I assume it's like his assistant to him, I guess, to Epstein. Is it still happening? Because like they weren't sure if it was still happening, but it would show that there were communication, and Epstein and Elon were friendly around 2014, which is 6 years after he pleaded guilty to soliciting prostitution with a minor. So
yeah.
not a great look whether or not he actually went to the island or not.
Yeah, and I think when there's that picture of him and Maxwell that was circulating, he said something like she photobombed him and he had nothing to do with any of that stuff.
Yeah, he distanced himself a lot from Epstein after that, but there's evidence that there was contacts directly with Epstein. There's this email that leaked about him, having kung fu classes with Maxwell, between him and Epstein emails, and yeah, I mean, it would explain a lot of things. It would explain why Elon, ketamine fueled late night tweeting, said that Trump was in the file, and then a week later he backs off and it's like, I went too far, and then he doesn't mention it and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a little call and he's like, hey, you remember you also in the Epstein file?
That is just such a weird situation over there. I don't quite understand that at all. All right, Flash 357. I guess the Model Y ramp up had nothing to do with the increase in sales, right? I think that's a little sarcasm. We are a joke, Brad. We're a joke.
I mean, the Model Y has been ramped up for months. I don't know what you're talking about. Like the increase in sales in the US is because of the tax credit going away right now. And in Europe, there's no increase in sales. It's the decline hasn't been as sharp in August as it was prior months. It's still down 22%. So the idea was that the Model Y will increase sales overall. Tesla sales are going to be down in 2025. That's a fact. So I don't understand your point, really. Sorry.
All right. Apparently, Model Y 2026 just had a battery failure. Bearded Tesla guy on YouTube. We'll check into that.
Well, I think that's what he's talking. That what we talked about earlier. That the battery failed after the crash. Yeah.
Oh, after the crash. Okay. John Baker notes that BYD sells a lot that are not BEVs, but I don't think we're counting the.
They sell some PHEVs, but in Europe, well, I mean, worldwide now they sell more BEVs than PHEVs, and in Europe, I think it's closer to like 70% BEVs, 30% PHEVs, maybe 60-40, something like that. But I think they have 2 models of PHEVs, maybe 3, and then the rest have 7 models of BEVs that they sell in Europe.
All right, I'm going to move ahead a little bit. Flash is talking to William Pisano. It seems like you need to go. Yeah, okay. A lot of chit chat in here.
Yeah, I mean, Dimes is obviously not a fan, but he's still in the chat chatting.
All right. Luckily, we have Ford with new LFP because Ford lost money on hybrids for 15 years, and now the Ford CEO said hybrids are the most profitable, and Ford is investing in BV. All right. I'm going to have to just weed through this. Picked up my rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y last week. Great improvements compared to the previous generation. Sad to see Tesla struggles. Hopefully, they can turn it around.
I would love that.
Yeah. You know what's frustrating is like, I kind of want to get a new Model Y. Obviously I have problems with Elon, but I think for me, a bigger problem is like FSD is something I would be transferring, and it doesn't seem like that hardware is going to be long. Like we're not going to be on that hardware for much longer, and it'll be isolated like 3. If Tesla came out with you will always have the latest hardware if you're buying FSD kind of guarantee, that would be something I would go for.
Yeah.
Mark Cornwell says, apart from Elon himself, Tesla's main issue in Europe is tons of smaller EVs are available that folks are buying, and Tesla has nothing smaller than the 3.
Yeah, that's part of what we've been saying, that Tesla's lineup is aging, and it's also not growing, with only a Cybertruck been added to it in the last 5 years, and that's not even available in Europe, and it wouldn't be successful in Europe anyway. So Tesla was supposed to bring out this year a cheaper, smaller electric vehicle, and it would have been a giant success in Europe, in Asia, and probably would have done okay in North America too, and maybe like would have helped the market go towards smaller vehicles, which the North American market needs to realign itself for a while. So I think that's part of that's Elon. So it's not apart from Elon himself. Elon is the one that killed that program. So I think he's part of he's the main problem here still.
All right, moving on. Can we talk more about the 2026 Nissan Leaf hitting the 25.5 price target before Tesla? I think it's monumental, and they deserve a bit more credit for that.
Is that with the tax credit or not?
I think so. I think the price is 32. I mean, last year, 2023, Chevy was selling the Bolt for 26.5. So it's not, I don't know. It's great, the lower price vehicles, but let's give it to the Bolt. We gave it to the Bolt. We gave them the car of the year that year. All right, and batteries, the new Model Y crap, or many video out there, and now 2026 are having problems with batteries. Model 3 LFP is good. I think.
But you have an LFP in the Model Y too, so you're saying that the NCM, NMC batteries in the higher end Model Y is crap? I haven't seen that so far yet.
All right, question. Do we have an official bidirectional NACS standard yet? If not, when?
Yeah, I mean, it's using the CCS protocol, which has now included a protocol for bidirectional charging. So some automakers that have NACS have bidirectional charging protocol in them. I think Tesla is just not activating it yet in anything other than a Cybertruck. But it should, I think, I shouldn't say it should. Okay, they've been saying it for a while that it would be the case, and that hasn't been. So we don't know what's the hold up there. I think it's a great feature that they should open for people that actually want to use it. It's, if you own the car, it's your battery pack, and you should be able to do whatever you want with it. I understand the concerns about longevity and all that, but maybe you take into account in the battery warranty that if it's not mileage but it's just charging, you need to track cycles instead, maybe, and then it's a solvable problem.
All right, Carl in San Diego, can you clarify when you were saying the EPA rule going away? I understand CARB states have minimum EVs in a manufacturer fleet and paying for credits when you don't, but that was never EPA rule. Yeah,
I don't remember the exact what do you call that? CARB is an acronym. I was forgetting the word in English, even though it's the same in French, but almost the same. But it's another rule that it's on fleet overall manufacturing fleet emissions. For it's a different set of emissions that they're doing, but it's basically the same thing at a smaller scale than CARB. Obviously, it's a CAFE, I think, is it, or so, I forget the exact acronym, but it's a similar approach basically as CARB is making, but for state level stuff. The CARB states, California, New York, whatnot.
Let's move on. Europe has $17,000 EV go that 100 EVs that go 180 miles of range. It's amazing. Yeah, China's also got some pretty inexpensive EVs that go 200 miles.
Is when you look at how people use their cars, it makes sense. I know, and I know that the US is a little bit different too, because there's a lot more car culture in terms of like you live around your car, and maybe public transport also, depending on your cities in North America, is not as good as in Europe. So take that into account. But it's there's still there's 330 million people in the US. There's some people where it would make sense. It's a big enough market where it makes sense to launch this vehicle there too.
All right, we're going to start skipping over some of this stuff because there's quite a bit. West Coast Supercars and Classics says Sentient. I'm sorry, Dave. I don't want to drive to Costco. That's on 2001 Space Odyssey. Question: do we know if the Hyundai LG battery factory is delayed, and by how much?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. I don't think they said it is delayed. I don't think they said by exactly how long, but I think they just referenced like a few months, if I remember. It's at least a few months, which makes sense because they send back hundreds of workers to Korea, and I don't think a lot of people are raising their hands to saying I want to come back anytime soon. Yeah, between that and the H-1B visa happening and all that, I think the U.S. going to have a lot of issues trying to get the foreign workers in.
All right, this is interesting and something I think about quite a bit. Chevy now, I mean, is it? I think it's just BrightDrop. I don't know if it's Chevy BrightDrop. They might be selling BrightDrops at Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
Dealers, 600 built in Ontario. Crazy discount at like $24,000 off. And if you use commercial, the $7,500 tax credit is available with no limits. So $53K for a box truck with a 176 kilowatt hour battery, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a opportunity for the van lifers to find an electric vehicle. That is a big battery. It's a big vehicle, but it is like, if you look at the actual BrightDrop 600, like the door is like, it's super not aerodynamic. It looks like a delivery truck.
It's not hermetic to like you get the hair coming in too.
Yeah.
So in the winter or like when it's cold, it's not great.
Yeah, it's frustrating because like, we just hear so many people talking about like an electric van life vehicle, and just nobody will build like something good for that. I mean, Ford has the e-Transit, and there's some bigger range versions of that.
The new e-Sprinter is not bad too, but yeah, though Francois here with the price wise, it's a good deal. There's no doubt.
Great deal for 176 kilowatt hour battery. That's huge. All right, we got a lot from Dimebag talking about how hitting debris on the road is like scratching your car somehow. It's like, if you scratch your car with a key, is that a crash? Well, if you hit debris on the road, that is a crash. All right. Anyway, Fred, I think you were involved in ATV development investment. I bought a Volcon HF1 UTV, crazy specs, China made, 17.5 kilowatt hour battery, 100 horsepower. I think those Volcons are like those really fat tire bicycles.
They well, that was their first product. Then they made other things, but I didn't even know they are they shipping those? Are you saying that you have it? Because that would be cool. I haven't seen them in the wild just yet. But yeah, I was involved in the company. Well, I was on like an advisor to the company, but there was some issues with it. They went under, but I actually bought them out of bankruptcy just last month. And now I have basically like an EV startup in my garage that we don't have any clear plans right now with it or anything like that. Just it's I have two ATVs, electric ATVs at my house, prototypes that are pretty cool. 20 kilowatt hour battery pack, so I got you beaten there on my ATV. But yeah, so I'm playing around with it. I just tested out too. My article's coming out next week, I think, for the ATV from Can-Am BRP. It's much lower power, like 9 kilowatt hour battery pack, I think, but it's a more complete vehicle, a lot more refined. And I think they're gonna have a good market for that too. Not a crazy price too. I think it's $13,000 US. So the electric off-roading sport, power sports, it's happening, and it makes so much sense. I love it so much because all the same benefits you have with road vehicles also apply to off-roading. Also applies to nature, and it's even better because like, what's better than enjoying nature? Then with zero emissions, zero noise pollution, it makes so much sense.
All right, question: does Tesla have any significant new products coming in the next 2 to 3 years? The only thing I know is Cybercab, but FSD doesn't work yet. I mean, Roadster maybe.
Big maybe.
Yeah, big maybe.
Tesla
updates
Semi, I guess, does that count? Even though Tesla claims it's been in production since 2022. At first, it claimed, we were entering production in 2022. Now it's like, we're entering production in 2025. So, it's depending on how you see it.
Yeah.
But I would count it as a new product. Then, Cybercab. Cybercab, I don't know what's going to happen with it, obviously, because if it doesn't have a steering wheel, it's not like the other cars with FSD. There's no other option. So you have to have solved unsupervised autonomous driving, and Tesla clearly hasn't solved that yet. And we're gonna see where V13 goes. And Elon says unsupervised by the end of the year. I say 800 to 1200 miles of capacity. Dimebag says Robotaxi. What is Robotaxi? Robotaxi is a Model Y right now. It's not a new product, unless you mean Robotaxi with Cybercab, but that's the same thing as a speculator is saying here. So yeah, I just it is a big bummer, really. Tesla's product lineup. There's no. I guess Model Y L expanding to other market.
Like, that bus thing that
that Robovan.
Robovan.
Yeah. I think I'm going to see Cybercab before we see Robovan, I guess. The stripped down Model Y maybe counts as a new. Maybe they're going to name that thing and something else on Model Y. I don't know.
Yeah, and we're going to get a new performance Model Y and a.
Well, it was
Model
already
Y
unveiled,
L.
but yeah.
All right, with the tax credit going away and the used tax credit, any thoughts of used EV prices in the U.S. will go up, stay stable, etc.?
I think they will go up. I think that's pretty clear. Every time the last time that the tax credit went away for Tesla, that's what happened. And Tesla used market badly needs it right now because it's pretty rough out there. I think it's gonna go up.
All right, I think that's about the last coherent thing here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to everyone for participating to the show this week. We had a lot of comments. We appreciate you. If you did enjoy the show, please give us a like, a thumbs up, whatever it is on the app you're watching right now, because we're live everywhere. And we're going to see you same time, same place next week. Have a good one.